Hi, Doug Pelton from the Frame Up. Today we're working on TC 1675 and we're getting ready to trim out the interior. And what we want to work on today specifically is the rear wheel arches. This is somewhat of a challenge to get these right, so we're going to take a minute and go through our technique and how to install the trim on the wheel arches. Now, the original car had a fiber type matting covering the wheel arches. Today we have modern materials, and what we choose to use is a foam pad which is 1/8 of an inch thick, and we cut that and glue that to the wheel arch. And what that does, it gives a nice soft contour, so when you install the vinyl wheel arch itself, it gives a nice close fit. So the first step in the wheel arches is to install that. We have that in a kit available with instructions. So if you need that, or if you find an upholstery shop close by, ask them for a foam pad, which is used for the landau tops, and it's 1/8 inch thick. So you can probably find it locally, but if not, we have this available as well. Okay, you're going to have your one sheet of foam pad, and you're going to cut that into 4 sections. You're going to trial fit those, and the sections are over the top, down the interior side, and then the forward, and then the bottom quarter. And you want to rough cut those and get them ready, and then you're going to glue them individually. Our first choice on glue is Weldwood contact cement. Obviously this is available in the U.S. For folks outside the U.S. it would be something that's comparable. So do the top panel first, and also when you pre-cut the slot for the seat bracket here, you want to leave a little bit of perimeter from that, because otherwise the white will show possibly through the trim. So we cut that back a little bit and try to follow the radius of the sheet metal here for your union between these two pieces. And when you put these in place, you want them to butt together the same as you would for a sheet metal weld. So you want to put your contact cement on here, and I can't emphasize this enough in being patient and waiting for the cement to get tacky. And when I say tacky, put your finger out where it really grips. If it's wet and shiny, it's not going to hold, so just be patient and put your glue down for each piece, and then form fit that, and then you can go back and trim the excess with a razor or a sharp knife. The second panel here, do the same, and then the forward bottom panel and the bottom quarter. Once you get that done, then you are ready to install the vinyl cover itself. Once you get the wheel arch finished, then you're going to take your vinyl cover, and you want to pre-fit this dry before you do any type of gluing or final fitting. And the way we do that is, the first event is you've got a stitched area for a slot to go over the seat bracket itself. So you just take a straight razor and cut that. Do not make it wide. Don't remove any material. Just a straight slit which will fit over this. Okay, and then this is really the central point of the install itself. You're going to want to keep this stitching on the radius, and so when you trial fit this, trim it, you want to do all of your fitting with that in mind. That is your landmark. So as you bring your material down, you can see there's a lot of excess material here. So you want to trim this back so you have the ability to kind of form and shape. And we're going to have to cut relief lines in here to go around this downward angle. And then on the outside, we're just going to leave this in excess to the outside, and we can trim that after the gluing is fit. So our next step is to physically fit and hand trim this item. Okay, we've got the wheel arch covering over the seat bracket. Now we can actually trial fit down below. I'm going to mark this so we can cut it where it's a little more easy to work. But you want to leave excess material. You can always trim back, but for right now you don't want to trim final or you might make a mistake. We're going to carry this over and then down the front. Again, we're using the seam as the landmark on where to make our cuts. I'm going to make this extra wide and we'll get it trimmed up. The next task is cutting some relief on the vinyl. But again, we go back to this corner. I can't emphasize that enough, keeping this landmark correct, and then you know how far you can make a relief cut, how deep. So we're going to take this in. And we'll go back and check it, get your stitch line positioned correctly. And then this, we've got the bullhorn that goes across here, so I'm going to make a relief cut on each side of the bullhorn to help it lay down a little bit better. We're going to go just a little bit deeper. What I'm doing is cutting relief lines on the outside, which will allow the material to conform to the arch itself and not bind on the outside. That'll allow you to get a nice final fit. Again, being careful not to go too deep. You do have the rear quarter panels that will install that will cover about a 1/4 inch of this, so you do have some room to play with here. We'll see how this fits now, going back to the contour. We've got our stitching on the radius, and when we put this on here, this all conforms nice across and down over the top. Looks like the relief lines are good. They're not too deep. Down here we get to the bullhorn again. So we're going to do a little relief line over the bullhorn itself on each side. When you get to the back corner, don't be too concerned about the exactness of the cuts and fit back in here, because this all gets hidden with the final trim assembly. You've got 3 pieces, one of which is the top to the side curtain box that gets fitted here. The second piece is going to be the trim piece that goes on the side that goes over the wheel arch. And then the third piece will be the rear quarter panel, which gets fitted in this area. And so this all gives you the final fit in this corner, and this all gets covered with vinyl. One thing to suggest, when you are making marks on the vinyl, use a dry erase marker, because if you mismark, you're going to damage your vinyl. So easy to pick up at the dollar store. Use that instead of a permanent marker. We're now ready to glue the vinyl to the wheel arch, but just to double check, I want to go over the final fit visually. Starting from the back, I've trimmed as much excess as I dare to, so it lays and conforms to the wheel arch. Again, we've got the seam on the corner of the wheel arch, and all of the edges lay very nicely. This is one area to pay particular attention to. It's the bullhorn that wraps around here, and this is a raised area, and it's always difficult to get this to lay flat, so you need to cut relief lines as much as you can so it flows and lays over on this side, and then this is going to be stretched when it's glued. And then over here as well, you can see how I have relief lines cut on each side and on the top, so it's going to lay good in the final aspect of this. And then of course down in the bottom, cutting relief lines in the corner as well to have it all lay. So we are ready for the glue. We're going to start the gluing from the back and work forward, because that's the direction that we're going to install the vinyl. Now the weldwood product we're using is, it takes the drying time to where it gets real tacky is around 15 to 20 minutes. So we've got plenty of time to allow that to dry. And then once it dries, you've got a working time of an hour to 2 hours actually. So there's really no rush on applying and trying to get it done quickly. Take your time and do a good job. Let's take a look and see if we're ready to go. It's been about 20 minutes. You can tell the surface is pretty dull. There's a few areas where it's a little bit thicker and it's kind of shiny, so we're just going to do the tack test, and it does have a real good grip. So it's time to get the vinyl. Starting in the middle and then working it radially down. Again, working all the air bubbles out. If you do have air bubbles, just pull it up and then redo it. And if we need to stretch it a little bit more, I've got a heat gun. You put a little heat on it. You gotta be careful because the heat gun really throws out a bunch of heat. You can do damage. Now I've got my line off just a little bit, so I'm going to bring this up and move this line over slightly to get back on track. We finished covering the wheel arches. I want to show you a couple other things to finish out the task. The first thing is the material you want to leave long around the top of the wheel arch. You've got your relief cuts here so it lays flat, but it's important not to trim this down to the corner. You want to leave this long, and the reason is when you install your quarter panel, your particular quarter panel might not have a real close fit here. It may have a little bit of a gap, so I'm going to raise this up so you can see. If your panel has a little bit of a gap, you still want to have that material wrapped up on the side so you have a finished look as opposed to seeing a cut there. The last thing is the bottom edge finish. You're going to have your excess material, so you're going to take your knife and just do a straight cut here, leaving about 1/4 inch overlap for the same reasons as up here. And then that gets finished with a black binding, and this was used originally also. So the black binding gets laid down here, and you're going to run this continuously across and over the bullhorn and then down the face, and it will finish down at the bottom here, and then you'll cut it there. Now this is going to be held in place with very small tacks, and you can see they're very, very tiny, very, very hard to hold. We have a little tool here that holds them, or you could use a set of needle nose pliers to hold them in place and then hit them with the hammer. So that's how you install the wheel arches. Be patient, take your time, and yours will turn out just as nice as ours. Thanks for watching.